our current analysis is that discussions between North Korea and Russia with respect to North Korea providing military support to Russia for its war in Ukraine, that those discussions are actively advancing. Most recently, we saw the defense minister of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, make a trip to Pyongyang, in essence, to ask for weapons. And we also have information, as we have indicated publicly, that North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, has some expectation that those discussions will continue as we go forward, including leader-level discussions, perhaps even in-person leader-level discussions.
We have warned publicly for some time now that arms negotiations between Russia and the DPRK are actively advancing. As you all know, some of you reported that last month, Sergei Shoigu, the Russian defense minister, traveled to the DPRK to try and convince Pyongyang to sell artillery ammunition to Russia. And we have information that Kim Jong-un expects these discussions to continue, to include leader-level diplomatic engagement in Russia. We urge the DPRK to cease its arms negotiations with Russia and to abide by the public commitments that Pyongyang has made to not provide or sell arms to Russia.
We have been discussing publicly the possibility of North Korea supplying weapons to Russia for quite some time. And the reason why that there is such an intense effort on the part of Moscow to generate this kind of support from North Korea is that we have continued to squeeze Russia's defense industrial base, and they are now going about looking to whatever source they can find for things like artillery ammunition. That's what we see going on now, and we will continue to call it out, and we will continue to call on North Korea to abide by its public commitments not to supply weapons to Russia that will end up killing Ukrainians. Providing weapons to Russia for use on the battlefield to attack grain silos and the heating infrastructure of major cities as we head into winter, to try to conquer territory that belongs to another sovereign nation, this is not going to reflect well on North Korea, and they will pay a price for this in the international community. We have also imposed sanctions, specific targeted sanctions, to try to disrupt any effort to use North Korea as a conduit or as a source for weapons going to Russia. We did so as recently as mid-August. And we have continued to convey privately as well as publicly to the North Koreans, and asked allies and partners to do the same, our view that they should abide by their publicly stated commitments that they're not going to provide these weapons. What has changed in their calculus is not something that I can speak to. That's in the mind of Kim Jong-un, and he obviously will be the ultimate decision maker. But we will continue to look for opportunities to dissuade the North Koreans from taking this step, to get others to do the same, and to report to the world what we are seeing in terms of the actively advancing discussions that are taking place between these two countries.
I will also just note that Russia has been forced to search desperately around the world for weapons it can use in its war in Ukraine because of our sanctions and export controls and the effects that those have had, which has made it harder for them to get material that they need. You've seen this with their attempts of a security relationship with the DPRK and the deepening relationships with the Iranian regime and their provision of drones that we've talked a great deal about as well.
And then I think it says a lot that Russia is having to turn to a country like North Korea to seek to bolster its defense capacity in a war that it expected would be over in a week, that in September of 2023, it is going to North Korea to get munitions to try to continue to grind out on the battlefield in Ukraine.
There's, of course, continues to be this incredibly concerning deepening of relations between the Russians and the DPRK, specifically in the security nexus, and that's, of course, something that we're going to continue to pay close attention to and take appropriate steps as needed.